I have not been this excited about an NBA Finals in literally a decade since 2016. We have the resurgence of the New York Knicks, won by a guy who 4 years ago was Luka Doncic's sidekick in Dallas and Jalen Brunson. You have players like Karl-Anthony Towns, who was the number one overall pick in the 2015 NBA draft by the Minnesota Timberwolves, traded to the Knicks for Julius Randle. You have a guy in Mikal Bridges who was traded to the Knicks a couple summers ago for 5 first-round picks. You have role players like OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson against the alien, the next new face of the NBA, the guy who I said, and check the Brandon Road archives tapes on this somewhere in 2022, 2023 range. I remember doing a podcast with friend of the show, NBA analyst Jalen Sandvik. And I said, Jalen, you gotta watch this kid. I'm gonna send you his highlights from France. His name is Victor Wembanyama. He's 7'5", and I've never seen anything like him. Oh, and then by the way, you add in the young cat in Stefan Castle, the number 4 overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft. Dylan Harper, the number 2 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. Which, by the way, as great as this Spurs team wouldn't even be allowed to be built now under the new anti-tanking rules of the NBA. We'll get to that in a little bit because what the hell is that about? Then you have veterans like De'Aaron Fox, Luke Cornett, and on the bench, guys like Bismack Biyombo to calm these young Spurs down. Role players like Eldon Johnson and Vassell, who just seem to make plays when they need a play, and Champagny. Folks, I know the Knicks won 2 out of 3 games in the regular season. And again, I was saying before the conference finals started that I thought the Western Conference Finals was the real NBA Finals. And I've been saying the more I look at this Knicks team, the more I think they can match up with the Spurs. But it's going to come down to who on the Knicks, if Mitchell Robinson is not 100% and can Karl-Anthony Towns stretch Victor Wembanyama outside the 3-point line, and can they minimize Victor Wembanyama? Because I'll say this. Listen, Wemby didn't even play a great game 7. I thought he played a B- game. I thought in spots he was great, but I thought at times he could have more aggressive. But his presence and his impact was on the defensive end of the floor. And Reggie Miller kept saying it over and over again. He kept saying, OKC's got to play fast. Because when they get their defense set, them being the Spurs, they may be the best defensive team in basketball. And, Wemby's range inside the paint, even SGA, well, I got to give it to that flopper. He did play a very good game 7, and the Thunder fans are going to say, we didn't have Jalen Williams. We didn't have AJ Mitchell. Yeah, you guys just lost to a bunch of baby 20-year-olds who shouldn't even be in this position. And yes, I am quoting about the Spurs because I have not been this excited about an NBA team since my 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers. Everybody said it for last year. Oh my God, the Thunder are going to be the next dynasty. Danny Parkins on First Things First, who I love, by the way, my favorite sports television show on right now, should have won an Emmy, by the way, said, oh, the Thunder are inevitable. And everybody kept telling me the Thunder are going to be the next dynasty. And it's no, no, no. I get it in typical NBA fashion. You got to go through baby steps like the Thunder did, right? You got to lose in the second round to a Dallas Mavericks team, then you can get to the NBA Finals and win it. But I said, when everybody said, oh, the Thunder have this war chest of draft picks, they're going to be, multiple champions, potentially back to back, I said, you're missing the point. Cooper Flag is now in the West. Anthony Edwards is in the West. But Luka Doncic is obviously in the West. But most importantly, you know who's in the West and who is coming and who didn't even make the playoffs last year because of a blood clot? Victor Wembanyama. And again, the Knicks team, who used to be this up bad boy Knicks team and not a lot of personality and flair, I think along with Mike Brown, who once again I defended them getting rid of Tom Thibodeau. And Mike Brown, I thought was a very good hire. I thought he was an underrated hire. Check the archive tape again at the time. Yes, I'm voting today because over the last few years I've gotten a lot of sports takes wrong, and I've gotten both of these teams right all year long. Again, you can check the archives on this show, on Championship Ringdown, whatever podcast I've been on. Or that's 4 months when everybody said, "Aren't you worried about the Spurs youth?" And I said, "No." And everybody said, "The Knicks aren't that great of a regular season team. They can't make the finals." And I said, "You guys are missing the point. The Knicks are not trying to be the best regular season team. They're not going try hard like the Pistons or even the Celtics, which I said the Celtics should be alone in before the finals because they shoot way too many threes. The Knicks are building themselves for the postseason." And my debate partner on Championship Rings, Josh Unger, believes the Knicks should have an asterisk behind it because they played everybody that went to a game seven. The Sixers went to a game seven. The Cavs went to a game seven. Now the Spurs are going to a game seven. It's not the Knicks' fault. They're blowing people out they've won 11 straight games by a record playoff margin. That is not an asterisk. That's just being overall the best team in these playoffs, even better than the Spurs, even better than OKC. We all said we're the two best teams. The best postseason so far has belonged to the New York Knicks. And these two budding stars, who, by the way, again, check the Brandon Ward archives, going into the playoffs, after the NFL season ended, I ranked my top 10 players in the NBA. And I said Victor Wembanyama was number two behind Nikola Jokic, but I said he could easily leapfrog at the number one. I had him ranked over SGA, and I had Jalen Brunson at number six on my list. By the way, I'm going to put him at number five. I'm going to put him over Luka Doncic at this point. But I said, even over Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jalen Brunson is the best player in the Eastern Conference, and I got that right again. So, by the way, again, going into these playoffs, I predicted the Spurs Knicks finals. I predicted the Spurs in five. At this point, I'll be honest with you, I'm leaning more towards Spurs in six, but I think it could be Spurs in five. I do think the Mitchell Robinson injury does affect the Knicks a little bit defensively. We'll see how healthy he can be. But folks, the rest of the 29 teams in the NBA, you can talk about tanking, anti-tanking measures all you want, Adam Silver. The rest of the 29 teams in this league should be scared of the Spurs. Because I don't even think Victor Wembanyama has his full potential yet. And I'll say something else too. I love the way Victor Wembanyama leans down into Mitch Johnson or even a Bismack Biyombo and just listens and takes it all in. It reminds me of the way Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson and their relationship, or even the Steve Kerr and Kevin Durant. If the Spurs win the championship this year in year three, Victor Wembanyama will do something that virtually nobody has done in the history of the NBA. And that is in their first playoff run, be the lead dog and lead his team to a championship, especially in a modern era where we've had eight different champions in 8 different years. And I said, after game one, when SGA was awarded the MVP, which I said should have went to Victor Wembanyama or Cade Cunningham. And I said the NBA MVP is a narrative-driven story, and I don't care what you think. Again, SGA is a great player. But the fact of the matter is, that's why I don't argue about NBA MVP or NFL MVP anymore, because the MVP is just a media-driven narrative. And as soon as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander passed Will Chamberlain for the most 20 points consecutive scored in the regular season, by the way, how about this? His field goal percentage dropped 10 points from the regular season to the postseason because he's not getting the whistle. And yeah, Wemby did a little bit of acting in Game 7 on Saturday night. I didn't love it. I'll admit it again, I didn't think he played that great of a game. And Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper and Vassell and the rest of those guys were also not afraid of the moment. And again, that is scary. Now, I know the old rest over rust theory. I'm really interested to see how both these teams come out on Wednesday night. Now the schedule's going to go, if there's no travel, it's every other day. So we'll go Wednesday, Friday. Then they'll go Monday, Wednesday. So there's two Wednesday games. Then they'll actually go Saturday, Tuesday, Friday. So for all of us, obviously, we're hoping this either goes 5 or 7 games. Let's have this be sort of a Saturday or Friday wrap up. That would be great. I can come on here the next day. I won't have to wait because I got to go to work the next day. So please, one of these two teams wrap it up in 5 or 7. But I'm telling you, for as much as I banged on the NBA, and I'm still banging on it, you're going to see the next video if you're watching on YouTube or the next audio session here in a couple minutes. I eviscerate the NBA for their tanking. The NBA is trying to fix its wrong issues. But I'm really interested to see the ratings for these finals because it should be through the roof because I've never been more excited about a finals in a decade. These are two likable teams. These are two likable coaches. These are two historic franchises. And this feels way different than the old Tim Duncan, Greg Popovich, broccoli Spurs versus the Patrick Ewing, physical, tough, not a lot of offense New York Knicks team. These are fun, explosive, young, energetic stars who are so passionate about the game and the city they play for. But again, if the Spurs do this, this may be the most impressive feat I've seen. I was born in 1998. I turned 28 years old in September. This may be the most impressive accomplishment I've seen as a fan of my lifetime watching the NBA. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.